Alright, good morning people. Bob here, back once again, ready to break down some Bitcoin. Let's get right down to it. Weekly chart in front of us here. The view of this one has changed quite a bit in the last few days. We were talking about it coming down here. Got a ridiculous bounce. Yesterday put in quite a bit of work. Got up to 23 and change yesterday, 23.4 maybe. So nice work by the bulls, picking this thing up off the, basically getting a double bottom here and just not letting this low from last week go. Couldn't have asked for anything more from the bulls there, really. Now the interesting thing will be kind of how this all plays out, because again, we're right this moment we're above the 200 on the weekly. The 200 simple moving average on the weekly chart. Right now we're above it, which is great. And now we just got to make that continue. Now, it wouldn't surprise me significantly to see Bitcoin put in a retest on this, which is around 22.7. I don't know. Bitcoin retested several different levels yesterday on the way up, but it wasn't necessarily to the tune that you would like to see that happen. You want to see it over a larger term time frame. So we'll see how it all plays out. But, I think that would be my biggest thing is it's gyrating quite a bit right now too. But that would be my biggest thing is just seeing it do something that would be, on a daily basis or something, holding that certain level. It's really jumping around right at the moment. But yeah, as far as it all goes, great day yesterday out of Bitcoin, and let's see if that continues. And again, right now, you can kind of see where it's maybe trying to put in that retest at the moment. That's the weekly chart. Daily, this thing actually was a doji just a few seconds ago. It was holding this level pretty well, and then like I said, it popped up there for a minute, and now it's been retreating pretty quickly. Now I'm getting bought up again. Tough to say. I mean, it's, I've got this line on my chart because this is where I kind of feel that Bitcoin, you can kind of mark where it either is going to be bullish or not. And this is like right at that level where it flips the script if it's going to be or not. Doesn't look like it's going to hold it, but that's pretty early in the day. We still got 11 and a half hours to go. Really, I wouldn't even necessarily hate if it came all the way back and back tested this level right here, this 21.8 level. That would probably even be the most ideal place that I could see it retesting. But I wouldn't want to see it close out necessarily the day below here, preferably, or here. But again, coming back down and back testing this wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So we'll see how that all goes. But now that I'm actually taking a close look at this, I do have, I don't know, I'll just go ahead and say we'll call it a concern of sorts as far as like how this chart looks right now. Just that the MACD here, you can see we had this great push, but the MACD histogram didn't necessarily keep up with it, if you will. And when I say that, I simply mean that you've got the MACD histogram put in a lower high than, say, several of these other histogram bars that actually ended up going much higher than this one did. So it's, you got probably some bearish divergence in there. Maybe make the argument that there might have been some here too, and then just an outright rejection in heading into bullish territory. So, I would say that there are some things that would suggest this thing could come back down pretty good. Take into consideration this guy right here, right? We had this long wick reversal. Right now we've got a long wick up at the top already and showing some downside pressure. And then in addition, we've got this trend line here, which, again, that trend line is part of this larger flagging pattern that I've identified several times. That's the midpoint line, and you can see that it is, in fact, holding water at the moment. So it's going to be tough to say with any level of certainty exactly how that one plays out there. But as you can see, there's already quite a bit of volatility this morning. I mean, just in the last 5 minutes that I've been talking, this thing's been as high as 23,000 and down to 22.6 and change. Got this big 22.5 and change, really. So yeah, there's definitely some a little bit of volatility out there this morning. Let's zoom in on some shorter term time frames and see. I think it's feasible too that this could have been something of a bullish fake out. I won't say that it is or was for sure, but I mean it certainly could have been something along those lines at this stage. We got the expectations from the basically the market got what it was expecting yesterday. The Fed came out, did their 75 basis point increase. I think that's, I would say most of the market was expecting that. So we got what we were expecting there, which is great, right? At that point, the question becomes, all right, so because the market got what it was expecting, does that mean that was positive? Or at the end of the day, is it still just, hey, this is actually negative? When it comes down to it, this is all really negative. Still, the overall, how do I want to put it? The overall macro picture is still terrible, right? So it's difficult to say with any level of certainty whether or not this thing just comes right back off the rails today. But we're going to find out real quick, right? I mean, and again, with all the volatility this morning already, and really just in the last few minutes, it's tough to pick a direction, right? It's been up, it's been down in just a few minutes here. So we're going to find out real soon. Like I said, it's just the way it goes. We're going to find out real soon. Let's zoom in on some short-term time frames, see if we can make any kind of sense of what's happening over here. Let's see, hourly. Yeah, I mean, not much to say here. It came back. Looks like it was trying to back test the 200 simple. At least on Coinbase, it only got down to about 22,583. Might have the sense that it's going to drag a little bit lower here again, though. I don't know if that's going. I don't think that one quite holds up. You got the RSI here. It's coming down out of overbought territory. It got rejected right here, right on the precipice of it. So I suppose it's sensible that it is, in fact, pulling back at the moment. That probably doesn't come as a vast surprise here. So will we come back down and retest that wick? Probably. Maybe not right away, but, good chance we retest that wick. Let's see. Yeah, and when I opened up my computer this morning, I saw this chart first, the 4 hour, and you can see here that it actually built this topping structure right here. Anytime you see multiple candles back to back that close at the same level, you can pretty well assume that is either a topping or a bottoming pattern, and that's it should come as no surprise then that this thing is coming down the other side. Now, that being stated, that doesn't necessarily mean that this thing has to just crash straight down. It could come, in the next 4 hour segment, assuming it's still hanging around up here, it'll come, it should come back up, kind of at least attempt to make a recovery, and then potentially drag down again from there. Just tough to say at the moment. You can't make that determination currently. So we'll just have to kind of see what ends up happening. We're going to zoom in on some real short-term time frames here in a second, and you can just see how wild this market really can be. Let's get over to this guy. And the Heikin-Ashi candles don't necessarily show it as well. I don't feel like they don't. They're really used to identify trend changes. So let's just kick this over to your standard candles for a moment here, and then you can see just how wicky this thing is. And we could even zoom in as far as like a 1 minute, and it's pop, 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 pop. It's probably heading down just to throw this out there. I mean, it's kind of building up this small downside parabola look. And, there's too much time left for me to believe it's going to hold this level on the hourly. That's just my simple belief. But, again, right now there's going to be some bullish sentiment in the market right now after the moves that it made yesterday. So I would say that, until this thing actually, I mean, this is probably forming out one of those BART patterns that we love to not love. It's probably pretty close to what we're getting here, but whenever we get the bullish sentiment flip, you're going to start seeing people buying up these levels pretty regularly, right? So, if we come down to this 22,131, don't be surprised if that gets bought up fairly significantly. We're going to see some volatility in there just because of the fact that we do have a little bit of a bullish sentiment flip from the activity over the last few days, and really going back a few weeks, right? We've talked about this enough that we know that we've been in an uptrend now, really going back weeks at this point, right? It all started technically beginning of June, or mid-June, excuse me, after it bounced off that low at 17.6 or so. That's what we're going to be looking for here is a continuation of the uptrend. We got the bounce that we needed here, and thus we'll see if it continues. Like I said, this kind of started topping out in here. You get this Bart Simpson looking pattern. You get the up move, and then you'll eventually get the down move. Don't be surprised if, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it wick all the way down here to this 21.9 region. And that would essentially backtest the breakout from yesterday. This is the way you want to look at it is, all right, we had this trend line here, which, let me give you some context. It was that large kind of bull flag going back to the 24K high recently. Bull flag, we had the breakout, lots of volume here. So that's a valid breakout right there. In order to get the retest, you got to come back down into this region. So it wouldn't surprise me if it just dumps right in here and then just gets bought right back up the other side. There's a lot of volume out there right now, but obviously it's mostly to the sell side of things at the moment. We're going to see. We're going to see how that thing closes out. You got this small kind of expanding, broadening falling, broadening wedge here. So that one, that's inherently, even though, again, and we've talked about this before, even though it is in fact a descending pattern, the pattern is inherently bullish because it should break out to the upside at some point. Now it faked out here, which is problematic, dragged it down to the bottom of the pattern, and now it's already working its way back up to the top of the pattern. Just not so sure it's going to get past this level here. Because again, you can see all the volume here, and it is in fact being dragged back down at the moment. Got 18 minutes actually to go until the hour ends. If it can close out the hour on this level, you got to assume that that's going to be a positive, and that would be a buy there. If it closes out the hour below this level, then you would revisit that consideration, and then you'd start looking at this level, potentially this level, but probably not. But yeah, I am beginning to think that maybe, just maybe, all that action yesterday may end up being something of a bullish fake out. We're going to find out before long, but again, just feasible. I think the weekly still looks great at the moment, unless this thing completely comes off the rails. But yeah, I mean, there are just some, I don't know, potentially some indications that would suggest that this might not be, this move that we had yesterday might not be a sustained move, and that it could very well collapse back into this pattern. And if that happens, then at that point, we're going to prepare to come on back down here at the bare minimum, 20,342. And from there, if we lose that level, you can pretty well assume that we are going to head down into this region potentially. So we shall see. I was Matt and I were chatting yesterday during the day, and I was preparing for a nasty rejection right at this level before we even crossed it. But then I was like, you know what? Actually, what's better than rejecting the bulls right here at this level? Let's draw more of them in, get them thinking we're actually going to break up all the way to this level right away, just to crap on them. And who knows, maybe that's what's going on there, is that we, in fact, are seeing the result of that. But again, tough to say. It's tough to say, right? I cannot say with any level of certainty one way or the other in regard to any of these things most of the time, right? I gotta tell you what's feasible, but not necessarily what will happen or did happen, or well, not did, but what will happen or would happen. But again, some positive things here, some negative things. We're just gonna have to see how it plays out. I did kind of look at this a little more closely yesterday, and I kind of did think to myself that, unfortunately, I do have a feeling that, and where was it that I was looking at this? It will eventually come back to me, and we'll cross that bridge when it does. But yeah, there was just something on the chart that I saw that I just didn't necessarily think was great. But as of right now, you can see that in fact Bitcoin has recovered several $100s in the time we've. My goodness, you got to love this market, people. You got to love this market. It's entertaining actually in that. And you won't see it as well on this chart because I don't think it lines up quite perfectly. But in reality, Bitcoin fell out of the pattern, and it might actually be right back into this kind of ascending pattern right here, which is more of like an ascending broadening wedge as opposed to this little descending one. Man, this thing breaks back up out of here. It actually does probably come up to here and or starts making its way up here. So some wild action already this morning. It's always fun when you get to watch it live and see all the craziness ensuing. My goodness. Yeah, I mean, look at that thing just popping right back up in there. That's all right. So I guess now, who knows? Maybe that daily candle, it got its retest and it's ready to roll. I mean, this thing is, again, it fell, at least on KuCoin, it fell to 22,520, 22,530. And has since rebounded up to 23,000 two different occasions already. So if that doesn't tell you anything about what's going on out there and the level of volatility, I don't know if anything will. Really, if I can just, if I see this thing cross over $23,000, $25 here in the next little bit, somewhere right in that region, and then subsequently from there, get over 23.1, feel pretty good about the upside continuation on the day. If not, then we'll see. Things may change a little from there, but yeah, I mean, it's wild activity so far this morning. All that being stated, I think realistically, as far as a daily high, just kind of based on, some of these other charts, it's going to take some effort to crack this level right here, this 23.4, because again, we've got this descending trend line that cuts through it, but at the same token, I would say that if we're going to see a move, it's probably going to be up to here, 24,633 on the high side. Maybe some outside chance that it would come way up here, but I doubt it. It's much more likely that it just kind of works its way up through here and then maybe punches through at some point during the day. Downside, again, I said I wouldn't want to really lose these levels in here. So far, Bitcoin is doing a good job of not losing them. But at the absolute worst case, if it comes down here, I'll live with it because I still think that would be an indication that we've got at least potential for upside from there and continuation. So we're going to see. I mean, the fact that the bulls bought up all that sell activity in the last, say, 15 minutes, huge news, right? Like, that's a big deal that the bulls bought all that up. So let's see if they can keep buying it up. Let's see if this RSI just keeps rocking its way to the upside, and see if we can actually spend the next 3 days green, and maybe by the end of the week we're actually sitting here at 27,000 wondering what the hell just happened. Man, I sure hope. I will look forward to catching up with you guys soon. We appreciate you. Go Bitcoin. My goodness.